The B&M Flying Coaster made its debut in 2002, and they're a crowd favorite. Other manufacturers have tried, but nobody has simulated the flying experience quite as well as B&M. Between 2002 and 2016, there have been 11 installations around the world, and today we're gonna put all bias aside and see which one's the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced, and rank them up based on prime ride time. These are the world's B&M flyers, by the numbers. If you're new to this series, prime ride time starts when the front car starts to pick up speed off the lift, and it ends when it hits the final brakes. Mid-course brake runs are left in, but if they slow the train down too much, it will increase the ride time but hurt the pacing. With the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I'm able to take out the lift hill, station, and brakes from the overall length, so the number you see on your screen will not match what you see on RCDB. I'll be honest, I thought there were a lot more than 11 B&M flying coasters, but the good news is they are all still in operation. Let's get this started. In 11th place with 40 seconds is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Over Georgia. This is kind of a basic model, but it was kind of the first. It did open second, but only by a couple weeks, and this was the first one they built that can be cloned, and they did, multiple times. That being said, the one at Over Georgia has a very nice setting around its terrain. It's tied for 7th in height and speed, featuring a 100-foot drop and a top speed of 51 miles per hour, the same stats as the clones that came after it. The track length on these clones does vary a bit, and I have this one as the shortest in length at just over 2,000 feet. It's not an exact science, and all of these clones are within 60 feet of each other. Superman does have solid pacing, covering over 50 feet per second and ranking 5th. Tied for 9th place with 42 seconds is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great America. After the one at Over Georgia opened in 2002, Six Flags wasted no time and put 2 more in for the 2003 season. This was going to be on the plot of land occupied by the Wizard, but the crowd rose up and let the park know that wasn't going to fly, so they turned their sights to the parking lot coaster, Shockwave. This is where Superman stands today. It is a clone of the one at Over Georgia, just without the terrain elements, so it's tied for 7th in height and speed, and up at 8th in length, the longest of the Superman clones, albeit by a few feet. It also slots in right behind the one at Over Georgia in pacing, finishing in 6th place. Tied for 9th place with 42 seconds is Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great Adventure. There was no drama with this one. They plopped it right down in the parking lot, next to Great American Scream Machine, now occupied by Green Lantern. We won't waste any time here. Like the others, tied for 7th in height and speed. This one's a bit shorter than the one at Great America, so it's 9th in length. And since it takes the same amount of time to cover less track, the pacing is worse by about a foot per second, and it ranks down in 8th place. In 8th place with 44 seconds is Crystal Wing at Happy Valley in China. Finally, we can move off the Superman coaster. But I have bad news. This is also a Superman clone. It was the last one of the clones to open, making its debut in 2006, and just looking at it, you may not realize it's a clone. The theming on this coaster is amazing. Not the only themed flying coaster, but possibly the best. You got rock, you got architecture, you have near-miss elements. Despite all the visuals, it's still a clone, so you have it tied at 7th in height and speed. This one's about 10 feet longer than the one at Over Georgia, so it's second to last, and it's second to last in pacing at 46.3 feet per second. In 7th place with 45 seconds is Harpy at Zhishuangban Sunaiklan in China. Finally, a custom layout. This one's standing much taller at 131.3 feet, but based on the top speed, I'm estimating its drop to be about 102 feet. That's good for 6. That 52.8 mile/hour speed also ranking 6. And for good measure, it's 6 in length with just over 2,200 feet of track, well over 100 feet longer than the Superman clones. Its longer ride time and more track length means its pacing is right in the middle of the clones, ranking 7th at 49 feet per second. This is listed as standing but not operating since 2020, as this park was closed for refurbishment, but that was scheduled to reopen in late 2021, so it may already be back open. In 6th place with 47 seconds is Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan. For a lot of people, this is the gold standard for B&M flyers. It's really not hard to see why. In addition to the crazy acrobatics, it's also the tallest flyer with a 124.7 foot drop, over 10 feet taller than the next in the list. Naturally, the biggest drop produces the best top speed, and by just 1/10 of a mile per hour, it's number 1 at 62.1. It does take a back seat when it comes to length, falling short of first place by about 150 feet, but it makes up for it in pacing, topping the list once again at 61.2 feet per second, winning that race by a full 3 feet per second. This was the last flyer that B&M built, and by the looks of it, they quit while they were ahead. In 5th place with 48 seconds is Starry Sky Ripper at Joyland in China. B&M seems like they had a lot of fun with this one, and this has two standout elements. It's got an inline twist, but instead of stopping in the flying position, it keeps going around until you're on your back, then throws you into a vertical loop. No other B&M flyer does this, and although the Vekoma flyers do have vertical loops, this is the only one on a B&M. It stands 131 feet tall, but its first drop is only 104 feet, good for 5th. That produces a top speed of 54.7 miles per hour, also 5th. And it covers about 50 more feet than Harpy, placing, you guessed it, 5th. Will it place 5th in pacing and make it a clean sweep? No, we already saw Superman at Over Georgia as 5th in pacing. Starry Sky Ripper is down at 9th, coming in at just under 47 feet per second. I don't see any real good reason why it's down in pacing, but truth is, these coasters aren't separated by much, so any slight slowdown, like at the top of the vertical loop, that alone can drop it a few spots. Tied for 3rd place with 50 seconds is Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. Here's the newest American flyer, dating back to 2009, and it's a good one. The park got this to complement their other massive B&M, Kraken. Even though it seems that Kraken is much bigger, it's only 9 feet taller than Manta. Because this is a flying coaster, that drop isn't going to go all the way to the ground, so it tops out at only 113 feet. Still good enough to be tied for 2nd place. It hits 56 miles per hour, which is 3rd. This is a long ride, split in half by a mid-course brake run. 4th place in length, at 2,690 feet. And despite losing some speed on the mid-course, it's 3rd in pacing at 53.8 feet per second. Having ridden this one, it's very intense in that low to the ground second half, after spending a lot of the first half high off the ground. Tied for 3rd place with 50 seconds is Galactica at Alton Towers. Here you have the original, the one that opened a few weeks before Over Georgia's Superman. B&M had the challenge of keeping this below the tree line, so they had to make use of terrain. Naturally, it's not a stat monster. It stands 65.6 feet tall. That's 40 feet shorter than anything else in the field. Its 46.6 miles per hour is also dead last, but it does feature a decent amount of track, more than the Superman clones, and that's good for 7th place. But then you got pacing, and no shock at all. It's last place at 42.6 feet per second. It offers a good amount of ride time, but doesn't have the speed of the others, so it's gonna move slow, but that's okay. This is all about the novelty of flying. It has some sections of track where you're riding on your back. That's something Vekoma did more than B&M ended up doing. This opened as Air in 2002, short for Aerial Inversion Ride, and it was rethemed in 2016 when they got VR goggles. 3 years later, they got rid of the VR, but kept the Galactica name. It was an innovative experience that fit in well with Alton Towers restrictions. In 2nd place with 51 seconds is Acrobat at Nagashima Spa-Land in Japan. Turns out, Superman wasn't the only clonable flying coaster. Manta has a copycat out there also. Nagashima Spa-Land carved out a giant square in their parking lot, right in the shadow of the world's longest coaster, Steel Dragon 2000, and plopped down this Manta clone. They did build a nice lake for the iconic moment off the midcourse, where it swoops down and the water shoots up at the riders' faces. If you're gonna clone a flying coaster, this has a great layout, so why not? This is about a foot taller than Manta, but I have it with the same drop at 113 feet, tied for 2nd. And it's just behind Manta in speed, which is good for 4th. It's barely ahead of Manta in length at just over 2,700 feet. That's 3rd place, but right behind Manta in pacing, just by less than a foot per second. So basically, it's the same ride experience, theming and setting aside. In 1st place, with 52 seconds, is Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Between this and Flying Dinosaur, it seems like that's the battle for the top B&M flying coaster. Manta and Starry Sky Ripper may have something to say about it, but still, at least stat-wise, Tatsu and Flying Dinosaur are doing battle at the top. Tatsu is built on the top of a mountain, swooping all around it, going to the ground level just once, but it's during that 124-foot pretzel loop, widely regarded as one of the most intense moments on any coaster. That's where it hits the top speed of 62 miles per hour, just barely behind Flying Dinosaur and ranking 2nd. Standing 170 feet tall, no flyer is taller, but that first drop is only 111 feet and that's down in 4th place. Because of its use of the hillside, it can keep picking up speed as it goes along without having one big drop. It's the only flying coaster that exceeds 3,000 feet, number 1 on this list, and beating Flying Dinosaur by 141 feet. But Flying Dinosaur got the last laugh in pacing, Tatsu having to settle for 2nd, 3 feet per second out of 1st place, but more than 4 feet per second better than Manta. Tatsu is one impressive beast of a coaster. Very fun, but not for the faint of heart. That's all for the world's B&M flying coasters. By the numbers. Let me know if anything here surprised you, or confirmed something you already knew. I was not surprised that Galactica had a bad stat line, and I wasn't that shocked about the Superman clones being on the smaller side, those being some of the originals. Manta and Acrobat were definitely bigger than I expected, especially compared to their counterparts, and I thought Starry Sky Ripper was bigger than it turned out to be. That ride still looks insane though. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. I have a playlist with more videos in this format. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you also happen to love baseball. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.